Hello everyone, and welcome back to the next episode of 4-Wheel Builds. I've got a big smile on my face because, as you can see behind me, we've got a 2010 Citroen Berlingo XTR back from the body shop, and it is looking awesome. Now let's go and take a look at the work that's been done.
Now I must apologise, the space is a bit tight. It's dark outside, it's raining and it's cold. So we'll work with the space that we do have. And starting off, here's the left hand side fender. So if you recall, this was a little bit damaged in the accident. Had a bit of a crumple here and there was a big crumple up here. Those areas have been pulled out, needs a little bit of Bondo. Just a little bit more work with the hammer. And it should be looking brand spanking new. Next up is the front bumper. We obviously had that purchased. It's just been loosely fitted just to be able to get the car home, and it's already looking amazing. It's starting to look like a proper car. The bonnet has been fitted. I did notice a couple little areas that just the edges have been bent, so I have to get my hammer and dolly out and get those areas fixed up. The hood is all there. I've had the windscreen shop come out as well. They've replaced the windscreen, so we've got a brand new windscreen in, nothing smashed up anymore. Now going on the right hand side, we've got that fender that was purchased, installed. Once again, this needs a little bit of body work because it's got some scratches deeper and a little bit more shallow, but nothing that a little bit of sanding and a little bit of elbow grease cannot take care of. And the gaps are looking great. They're nice and even all around. The headlight has been fitted as well. It does need a polish. I'll have that done in one of the later episodes. Now let me open up the bonnet, and I'm not quite sure if I'll be able to do this with one hand. Now looking at the engine bay, as you can see, that's all been pulled out and put together. So if you recall, that apron was all mangled up, and look at that. That's all been pulled out. It's now as straight as an arrow. Well, maybe not quite an arrow, but it is quite straight. And it's more than acceptable for what I need it to be. What I've managed to do is I've got these weak plastic sort of tops or covers that go over the front radiators, and what I've done is managed to break this. Here, one of the tabs, oh sorry, two of the tabs were broken. I've broken one and it's just hanging onto one. I've got a brand new piece, so I've got to get this dismounted and get all this fitted up. So in today's episode, guys, what we'll do is we'll strip out down the front end once again. So we'll take off the front bumper, we'll take off the at least start headlight. So what I need to do is get all the insides prepped to be able to paint it. So a lot of the parts that have been fitted need to be removed. Also, obviously these pieces that I've managed to break needs to be removed. Alright, so let me know of your thoughts, leave a comment. I'm quite happy with what the body shop has done. This section was pretty badly damaged. To see it all pulled out and see it fixed like that, I think the body shop did a magnificent job. That's why I keep on going back to them.
Okay, so let's get busy and start stripping this front end.
Alright, check this out. So we've got the overflow tank, this window spray bottle, all the wiring out of the way. The only thing that's really still in our way is the power steering pump fuel nozzle. But once we're ready to, once we're ready to paint, what I'll do is I'll undo these two bolts, drop this down somewhat, and I'll hang it up on some zip ties. Then we'll paint it, and then we'll bring it back up. I won't do that today. There's only a couple bolts. All right. So what do we have to do? Get some sandpaper out. Essentially, clean all this up. Vacuum all these. I guess there's still metal shapings everywhere. So vacuum all those up. Clean this up, and essentially get ready. This fender will have to come off. And I might actually take that off in a minute, because this fender will need to come off for painting anyway. Okay, so now let's get the vacuum cleaner out. We'll vacuum some of these metal shadings up, and then we'll start getting to work with the sanding. Let's go and replace this part here. I don't know what Citroen's thought of when they designed this. I've got a brand new replacement. Built in Argentina, I believe. Argentina did just win the World Cup, so hopefully this part will be good to replace this. Alright, so first of all, need to remove the locking mechanism, then undo two bolts here and two bolts on the ends. So one in there, and there's another one on the outside here. Okay, and we've got the hood hinge, the hood lock mounting, whatever the hell this piece is, replaced. So as I said, I've got an aftermarket part. It came in broken already, so there's a piece here that's broke off. I mean, that's whatever. I mean, I don't really care about that. Additionally, there's a piece here that holds this cable that was broken, and as soon as I've put the cable in this slot here, that also broke. So as you can see here, yeah, not the best quality, but it's there. These pieces seem to be holding up okay for the moment, at least. Needed to adjust the lock, needed to move up, and now the whole hood is closing perfectly, and it's looking good. Okay, now let's start getting on this part, but before we get started on the sanding, let's maybe just remove this fender. Okay, I've taken the fender off. So take a look at the other side of the apron. This is all the work that the body shop did to get this straightened out. Just need to remove these hoses that go to the window washer. I think there should be a hole here for this, but that's okay, not needed. But that's looking quite good. So yeah, just got to remove these hoses here, and also get this side prepped, and we'll give this a lick of paint as well. This side we're not actually going to be able to see anyway, but obviously I don't want to leave these raw metal in such a way, because obviously the panel or the apron will start rusting from this side, which I definitely do not want to have. Sandpaper. and start sanding. 120 sandpaper, and away we go.
And we made some really good progress with the sanding, and excuse my stupid little hat. It is bloody cold today, so this is keeping warm. Anyway, let's take a dive into the engine bay and take a look what I've been able to achieve so far today.
Okay, so I've been able to sand and scuff this entire area, as you can see. So starting all the way from here, going all up to there, using sandpaper of 120 and 150 degradation. Used the 150 just because I ran out of 120. I actually thought I had some around, but I didn't. So I've got to get some more. Okay, and additional to that, I've also sanded this area, so got that prepped. Like I said, this doesn't need to be perfect. I just sanded it down, scuffed it down just to make sure the paint holds and doesn't flake over time. And predominantly, I want to ensure that all that raw metal is covered up so it doesn't rust.
Okay, I've sanded the engine bay down with 120, 240 and 320 sandpaper. The 320 I've only just used inside. On the outsides I didn't bother because, well, you're not going to see it anyway, and from underneath as well. Okay, so what I've got to do now is get some isopropanol alcohol and make sure we clean this area up good and proper to make sure there's no oil, grease, any other crap that's there that's going to prevent the paint from sticking properly.
Okay, as you can see, I've done the masking. Masking is an art, I must admit. Judge me for what I've done. It is actually quite a difficult task, especially in the engine bay, because there's a lot of curves, there's a lot of tight spaces which I needed to get into. I think for what it is, I think that's ample enough. I've got the side done up here as well, so I've got all this cut off here, got the wheel covered, so we shouldn't get any overspray. The only other thing is I just want to get a piece of cardboard and place it on top of the actual power steering pump, just to make sure that no paint falls on that. So giving the area a last wipe down with the isopropanol just to make sure everything's clean. We've got our epoxy primer. So you put this on the bare metal areas. So now I've just got to shake this up for a couple of minutes, and once it's done, we'll be ready to spray. I've done one coat of the epoxy primer. got the areas mostly covered off. There's like still a few gaps here and there, but overall it covers quite well. We'll give it 10-15 minutes to allow it to flash off, and then we'll give it another quick coat. Look at that, guys, we've slicked it in. The second coat has gone in and it's looking mighty good. Obviously it needs time to flash off. We need to leave it now for 12 hours for it to do that, and once we come back tomorrow we can start putting the next coats on.
Alright guys, and that's going to be for today. We'll come back tomorrow and we'll get the engine bay painted completely. See you guys then. And it is the very next day here at the 4 Wheel Builds workshop.
And guys, in preparation for the painting the primer, I needed to get another gun, and I got the well regarded R500. So apparently this is a really great budget gun. What I needed is a larger fluid tip. The largest I have thus far is a 1.5, and the U-Core primer that I'll be spraying needs a minimum of a 1.7 or up to a 2. It will be my first time actually spray painting a car using a spray gun. I'm very excited and looking forward to it. And now what I've actually got to do is actually put it together to prepare it. So there's got to get the gun, get the pressure regulator underneath, and then also a filter.
We build this castle of sand. We hear the rush in the wind. Yeah, we were closer than friends. I hope that we could withstand. But now when I fall and when I cry, wish that to pick me up. When all of my tears are running dry, who'll take me back to the top? The waves come crashing in. The roaring surface listen, the echoes lost again.
Our epoxy primer has all dried up and it's looking mighty slick. I've got some of this U-Pole high build primer. I'll get some mixed up, pour in the gun, and we'll get that engine bay sprayed in. Quite frankly, I'm even not quite sure as to how much of this stuff I'll actually need to get this sprayed in, so I might just do a small amount this time around, maybe 150 mil. If need be, then I can get some more mixed in.
We'd build this castle of sand. We'd hear the rush in the wind. Now we have come to an end. I hope that we'd stay on land. But now when I fall and when I cry, wish that to pick me up. When all of my tears are running dry, who'll take me back to the top? The waves come crashing in.
Okay, sorry, that was quite hard to get it done one-handed. So let me give you a look as to how it's done, how it's come out. Not quite sure. Seems like some of these are blotching, so I'm not quite sure there's enough air, or maybe there's not enough material coming through. Okay, I've turned up the pressure to 40 psi, and I'm liking what I'm seeing. It seems the finish seems to be a lot better, a lot smoother than it was before. The paint seems to be coming out or flowing out a lot nicer than it was previously. There's a lot less overspray than I thought there would be. I don't know what I expected. I expected that there'll be a whole lot of dust and paint dust sort of flying everywhere, and there isn't. So there you go, that's something that surprised me. I'm sort of taken back. It's sort of like spraying with a spray can, but a lot more comfortable and a lot more controllable. Okay, now let's grab the gun and let's get painting on the car. Done the first coat. Let's give it 10 minutes to 10-15 minutes to flash off, and then I'll come back and we'll do our second coat. Can't call myself a painter yet, but the job has come out quite slick. Let's take a quick look. I've just run the second coat of the high build UPOL primer, and it's flashing off quite nicely. It's coming out really smooth. Obviously this will still go through sanding, or at least in the interior. On the apron, on the outside of the apron, this will stay as is now. It is the very next day once again here, and take a look at that. High build primer, 2K, shot out of the gun. It's dry. It's actually quite smooth, I must admit. I thought it was going to be a little bit more rougher than this. But what I have to do now is get some 600 grit sandpaper, sand this down, make it a little bit more smoother, and then get the color and get all this painted. Okay, and the sanding is done. It's not ideal. I'm not looking for perfection. Remember, this is an engine bay, and the rest of this stuff will be covered up anyway. So now what I'm going to do is actually, rather than actually putting tape once again, because I've got a few of these hard lines. So what I'm actually going to do is get some cardboard and put against that. What I want to do is actually get that hard line. Well, it's not a hard line anymore, but get that, cover that line, and then overspray a little bit of this paint over that, just to sort of blend the two areas together. Alright, so let's get some isopropanol alcohol, spray this area down, clean it all up, get rid of all the dust, and then we'll be able to get this paint sprayed in. We've got the paint heating up on the stove right there. Got this old stove that we've renovated, and it's quite hot. Got to kind of keep it warm here, make sure it's not too cold. It is quite cool here today, and as you might see, it's a balmy 3 degrees. I have no idea what that is in Fahrenheit, but it's cold. And there's that fire burning. This stove was, or this heater was actually in the old house that on this farm when we bought it. So we just got it out, we had it renovated, and it's working a treat. It's quite warm. It's actually quite hot now. So it's keeping the paint warm. Let's give it a good shakedown and let's go spray our first coat. The paint match is terrible. It is woeful. I think on camera it even looks worse than it does in real life. Now I think I only got myself to blame because I got a piece of the fender to get the color. Now there's the fender from the outside and there's the fender from the inside. Now I got the color match for this, and I must admit I didn't check. Indeed, I didn't actually compare this to this. If I had done so, I would have found out it differs. But so what I can see now it is, if you actually have a look on this panel, on this piece of the panel, this is the color that we've got, and this is the undercoat with a bit of overspray of the actual base color. Now if we actually compare that, see if I can get that in there. See that? So I think
the best way to approach this would be to get the second layer sprayed in anyway, just to get that paint on there. And then once I get some of the base in, what I can do is actually get my mini spray gun out and just maybe sort of put a layer or two of the base coat on here, just to make sure that sort of evens up with what's up the top there, and make this even and not so stand outish.
Okay, and we're back a couple of days later. This undercoat this primer has finally dried. It's looking awesome. So now guys, what I've got is some of this base coat. So EZW, which is the Citroen color for this car. And we'll get some of this paint on here to make it look OEM. So now what I'm going to do is just get some 600 paper out. I'm just going to give this a light scarf just to make sure that the base coat has something to grip onto, essentially. I've got a heater going. It is once again quite cold in Poland. Have a look at this. It has snowed. There's a lot of snow out there. Well, maybe not a lot of snow, but there is snow out there. It is quite cold. So I've got this heater going to make sure that this is warmed up, and I might actually just get my heat gun out and just warm the panels up before I actually throw the paint down. And to paint the top coat or the base coat within the engine bay, I'll use my Italco Mini Shine spray gun with a 1.0 tip on it. Guys, and check this out, we've dropped the first coat and it's already looking a lot better than what it was before.
First coat is touch dry, so now let's dial the fluid level down a little bit and let's drop the second coat.
So here's a close-up of how the paint looks after the second coat.
Alright guys, so on that note we will end today's episode. We've got the engine bay finished up, got it painted. Now it's just going to dry. Once it dries up, I'll get this unmasked and then we can start putting this engine bay back together. I hope you really enjoyed this episode. If you see something that maybe I did not do right, or if you think I did quite well for my first paint spray job ever, then please leave me a comment. I really enjoy reading your comments and I hope to reply to all of them. Leave me a like. If you haven't subscribed as yet, consider subscribing. It's going to help me and the channel out a lot, and hopefully that will allow me to bring you more and better content. So that is it for today. See you guys in the next episode.